All right, let's do it.
Cool. So, Jimmy St. Louis, how you doing, man?
Hey, I'm great. How are you today?
I love the name. I saw it come across and it was different from your screen name. And I'm in Kansas City, so I might go by the moniker Joey Kansas City.
All right, I like it. Well, it's funny because if you Google my name, you'll either find some stuff about me, or you'll find a guy named uh, St. Louis James, and he is a famous jazz singer
Oh,
from a couple decades ago.
that
And so, of course, then when I saw your podcast, I do know that you, of course, I'm looking forward to our conversation today. But I had to immediately, when I saw the name, double check to make sure that you didn't think I was the famous jazz singer. So,
you know what's
so
weird? Years ago, I got a request from a guy by the name of Zev Shavets, and he started asking me all these baseball questions. Now I'm a baseball fan, but I'm like, what's going on here? And I'm like, your deal, because I'm a visual artist and I wasn't doing radio at the time. I was like, I'm just a visual artist from Kansas City. He was like, oh, I was going for a guy. There's a guy up east that owns the minor league Hall of Fame, and his name's Joe Dimino. So he
okay.
was looking for him, but we struck up a conversation, and I was working as a correspondent for Current TV at the time. So we ended up doing an interview. Like 2 nights later, this guy was on the Colbert Report. I'm like, what's going on here? So he's a pretty big time author. So it was cool.
Yeah.
Sometimes when you can get confused with your alter ego or doppelganger, it's fine, you know?
Yeah. Oh, for
So-
sure. No, it can certainly work out in people's favors for sure. So, yeah, I just wanted to double check there. I
Yep.
thought you'd have been sorely disappointed that I'm not a jazz singer and
No,
don't
no,
have a
no.
voice.
No, 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 no. I love all the flavors in life, and I want to really dive in here first and foremost and ask you, we've all gone through quite a thing with COVID. How did you survive it? And how has it changed the way that you do things now?
It certainly has changed the way that I do things. So I live in Tampa, Florida. So,
Okay.
Florida was, of course, equally as impacted in terms of the people that it affected, but the state remained relatively open. And I know there's a lot of debate one way or another. And kind of that aside, our lives did not change as much here, but it was very strange from a travel perspective because we would go and adjust to what's going on in the state. You come back and it would change again. Traveling with people was very interesting. Traveling with people, I had a lot of business to do in California. You would travel back and you could see people be very upset for people forgetting to wear their masks and those things. And then when they land here, it's like a complete shock. So that part was interesting. I would say that in terms of our lives changing, I mean, the in office work will just never be the same. We really had a incredibly fun, dynamic work environment where I think people really enjoyed being there. And one thing that was really challenging were people that worked with us for many, many years who really thrived off of that community. The remote work environment was very difficult for them. I do remember our director of team building contacted me right when COVID happened, and she said, "Oh, this is probably not good for me, right? I'll probably be out of a job." And my response was, "No, in fact, you'll probably be busier than ever
Yeah.
because the engagement efforts are going to have to be doubled down on." So we did things like the monthly book clubs. We did, online Zoom bingo. We do quizzes and contests and all kinds of fun things to keep people engaged. But you just really can't replace the chance to have that water cooler talk, or
Yeah.
take a look behind you and have a conversation, or go to lunch with someone different every day. Those things have changed quite a bit, of course. So as people have eased back into it, we still have seen that it used to be working from home was something that was earned, and now it's expected. So those are certainly some dynamics that we're all adjusting to.
So if I put you in front of a bunch of grade school kids, third graders at a career day, and one of the kids says, "What do you do for a living?" How do you boil down to the essentials of what you do on a daily basis?
Sure. So I tell them that I've been a lifelong entrepreneur. So I like to start businesses that solve problems for people. And I've had the chance to work in healthcare for a number of years. I do have a technology platform where people can go to buy businesses. That's what I tell them, and I appreciate the question because I'm volunteering at a thing in Tampa next week called BizTown, and essentially elementary school kids go and they are given different jobs. You've got a CEO of iHeartRadio, you've got a CEO of Publix, then you got the CFO, people who run town hall, and I'll be volunteering with a group of fifth graders, including my daughter there. So I'm sure that that question will be asked with about 30 or 40 of them. So now hopefully I have a pretty good canned answer for them.
Yeah, you're prep, man. Yeah. So let's put you into that seat. You're a third grader. What did you want to be when you grew up? What was your dream?
Well, my dad was a physician and a surgeon, so you kind of follow, try to
Yeah.
you admire your parents, so you say that. And I have really enjoyed being in healthcare, but I didn't follow that route. So when I really knew, so growing up, I said I want to be a doctor or a professional basketball player,
Yeah.
and those are the kind of typical dreams there. And then as I got older, though, in high school, I knew I wanted to do something in business.
Yeah.
I didn't know what it was. So I approached my college degrees and my master's um, in a bit of a less pointed way, but just saying I am going to do this to best equip myself for whatever it is I do. I knew I would be involved in business in one way or another.
So who's been a hero for you in your life? Who's been kind of a consistent role model that's fueled the way that you have become who you are?
Sure. So my father has been and still is. He's an interesting person. We definitely have very different personalities. But one thing I really learned from him is he's very resourceful. He also just has a way of just kind of figuring things out. So his story is he married his high school sweetheart when he was 19 years old. He also was a two-sport athlete in college, but they had a baby. And then when my older sister was about 3 months old, her mother disappeared, and my father raised my older sister Jessica by himself while he was in college, pre-med, ROTC, playing two sports. And he would, in order to make ends meet, he would work the moonlight shift at the gas station, and he would study all night, and he'd wake up and do it over and over again. He'd go home, go to sleep a couple hours, wake up and do it over again. And she would sleep right next to him in a little bassinet in the gas station up in La Crosse, Wisconsin. And then he went on to medical school through the military, and so he leveraged his resources in the military to go through medical school. And then when he started his private practice, he was just always pretty clever and innovative with the way that he would attract patients. And he grew a number of very successful practices and had a couple exits. And during those times, he had some challenges with, I mean, I remember the dot-com bust when he had a bunch of money in the stock market and he had to kind of reset. And he's had to do that a couple times, but every single time he's managed to figure it out and remain pretty cool-headed along the way. So I've really admired that. And then he was really very supportive of me from an athletic perspective. He would provide me with all the tools that I really needed to be successful, but he never pushed me into one direction or another. Example is, I mean, he grew up playing football. I had no interest until my last year of high school and decided to start to play, and he did everything he could to support me. And then I ended up going on and playing football in the SEC and having a short NFL career, largely because of him as well. So because of those things, he's someone I look up to and admire, and I really try to model a lot of what I do around resourcefulness and really how we raise our daughter based upon how he raised me.
So let me ask you this. You've been around a lot. Um, if you can meet anybody alive on the planet right now and spend a little time with them, who would it be?
Um, if I could give if I can give two, if I can give one answer, the one answer would be Elon Musk.
Right.
I'm sure that's a pretty common answer,
Yeah.
but I wouldn't be as interested to learn about the ins and outs of his business, but it would be pretty interested to learn how he really has developed his vision. I think a lot of these guys can see very far ahead, and then they have the ability, in my opinion, just like a great professional athlete. And I remember I had a couple times in my career as well where things just really slow down for you, and you just see everything really clearly, like it's in slow motion. And I would anticipate that would be something I'd like to ask him. How do you see things clearly? How do things slow down for you? How do you know when you're headed in the right direction? I think that's something pretty interesting. And then, on the other side of the pond, although she's passed now, but it would have been pretty interesting to meet the Queen of England.
Right.
Someone who's lived that in that environment for so long. I would like to ask, kind of what's the challenging part? What's the darker side of these things? What are the pitfalls of growing up and living in an environment like this? I've always thought that would be something pretty interesting to learn from.
That would be, yeah, that would be that's quite an existence.
Yeah.
So, you're a highly driven person, obviously as an athlete and entrepreneur. What has been like a chief fuel or motivator for you in your life? What really gets you out of bed and gets you through it all?
Some of it I was born with. I think that you could probably even talk to my parents from early on. I would tell you that from the ages of 11 until today, there's probably been less than 20 days where I haven't woken up before 5:30 a.m.
Wow.
And I love the quiet time. Sometimes as early as 2:30 or 3 in the morning, and it'll be long walks, or I like to say I like to get work done when the rest of the world is sleeping. So when the chaos gets started, you can be prepared for it. Um, and that's something I've really enjoyed doing, is those early mornings. I did an interview a couple years back, and I think that one of the lines they took from it was "give one more minute each day." So that's something that's important to me, is whether you're out practicing basketball and it's an extra minute, or make sure the last shot you take is a shot you make. Same thing in business. It could be one more email in a workout. It could be one more rep. I think all those things are just really important to me. And so a motivator for me, I like to say I'm a mission driven leader who likes to solve problems. So if I identify a problem, I can often be a little bit stubborn in thinking, okay, I can solve that problem. Now let's put a plan together to do it. So that has been a motivator. That's been a motivator for me in school and startups and sports. Has always been, okay, what's the problem we can solve for? This team is lacking this resource. This business is lacking this resource. This sector of the industry needs help in this particular area. How can we go and solve that problem? And I just connect the dots. I know that for sure you can't solve serious problems with any shortcuts. It all is just hard work, and ideally just one extra rep, one extra email, one extra minute every day.
So, as an athlete, if you could go back in the history and the annals, get into a sports DeLorean, so to speak, and you could go back and witness any sporting event in person, where would you go?
Wow. Probably the 1944 Olympics.
Wow.
That's, so World War II, the book, The Boys in the Boats, took place then. Jesse Owens was there.
Yep.
You think about the dynamics. There's a world war going on. Media is not like it is today. So some of the world knows what's happening over there. Some people turn a blind eye to it. Massive racial divides, massive cultural divides. And then you have the whole world, and the spotlight is in one place for a 16-day period,
Yeah.
with, you know, uh, with Hitler running the country, right?
Yeah.
So the dynamics. I was trying to figure out the right way to profile and to say his name, right? So,
Yeah. Yeah.
um, so the dynamics there were really interesting. And you think about, so I really enjoyed the book Boys in the Boat. I enjoy the movie Race, which is about Jesse Owens, and the dynamics were just very interesting.
Yeah.
And you have some of the greatest athletes of all time who were there participating. So you get to see some fun events along the way.
For sure. So,
Yeah.
everyone out there, you've dealt with a lot of people in business. What's a pretty cool fact about you that maybe people don't realize? Something that they just don't, maybe just even about you only having 20 mornings where you didn't wake up at 5:30. What's something about you that maybe people don't realize it's a part of your DNA, your fabric?
So to me, I've really just we have a family motto to surround ourselves with growth oriented people. That's just important to us. People that are always willing to grow and challenge the status quo and have good conversations. And I think a lot of that I come from a family from lots of different walks of life. So one thing that people may not know about me is I actually have 7 siblings, and they're all half siblings, and even though we all look very similar, we all come from, I guess, four different parents. So a couple different moms, a couple different dads. So it's interesting though, because when you look at us as a unit and we're all together at my father and stepmother's house, you wouldn't know that. And a lot of us are, let's see, my older sister's 7 years older than me, and my younger brother is 19 years younger than me. So we're 26 years
Wow.
apart from
Wow.
start to finish.
Crazy.
So that's been interesting. Now I like to kind of take on the role of that that hub to the spokes for the family as well. So I'm fortunate to be called on for advice. I'm happy to give people the tough advice and tell them I think if an area that they could probably improve. And I always ask for that advice and that feedback as well. So I've got a great relationship with all of them, but that's it's an interesting fact because I'm the only one. I've got the younger ones who are all full-blooded brothers and sisters, and
Yeah.
so that's just an interesting family dynamic for me.
For sure. On this life that you've gone through, there's ups, there's downs, there's all kinds of experiences, but we gain wisdom. Let's say you have a dream tonight. You run into the 20-year-old version of yourself, and you could give that version of you a piece of advice based on what you've lived. What would you tell that younger version of you?
Remember and hold on to every relationship that you've had and take something good from it and stay in touch with those people. It's as we've launched this new business called Ali RX. It's a home health test business. I've really relied on those grassroots efforts to just share the word because I think it's a product that's applicable to everyone in the world. And it's funny. I reached out to a network relatively deep about 10 years. But what was funny is my wife asked me a question about high school. And we were joking. So she ran into our library and pulled out my high school yearbooks. And we started looking through some of the comments. And I thought they would be relatively kind of silly, high school comments and all that. But the senior year one were not. They were really, it was really neat to see, and actually reached out to about 10 of them. Because they'd say things like, hey, even though all the friend groups aren't as close, you always just kind of had a way of just checking in on me. Or, good luck playing football at Auburn. I can't wait to watch you play, but more importantly, I hope that we can stay friends. And I believe that social media has created some of that connection, but I think that true personal connection is not there as much as it used to be, largely because we have such great access to almost everybody that I think a lot of the relationships are very surface level. So for me, that's something that I would pass on to that 20-year-old self is I think one, you pick your three best friends in the world, and I think that's all you really need, plus your spouse. But I think that having good, strong, nice, healthy relationships with as many people as possible is something I take pride in.
Amen. Yeah. So everyone out there, you have all these pockets of people that know you in different lights, family, friends, clients, colleagues, all over the place, even as an athlete. But ultimately you drive your life. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
Um, Motivated, stubborn, I'd say a problem solver, and a family man. Someone who really cares about my family, my daughter. Those are things that are important to me. Stubborn works in my favor a lot more than it doesn't. Stubborn can be, I've decided there's a problem to solve. We're going to start a business and it's going to happen. That those things are happening. So, jump on the train. Let's get a line. Let's get excited, but we're doing this. And I think that, I really enjoy the 10X rule, the book called the 10X rule. I mean, he does such a good job. He's like, look, end of the day, you're responsible for everything. He said the power went out on his whole city block. He took responsibility because his family didn't have power. They couldn't sleep that night. It was blazing hot. And so he took responsibility because he didn't have a backup plan. Right. Someone steals something out of your car. That's your responsibility. Why wasn't it locked? Why'd you have stuff in there?
Yeah.
So I really enjoy that. And I think that's that's definitely a philosophy that I like to live by.
Right on. Jimmy St. Louis, anybody out there that wants to hire you, learn more about you, you have a very interesting, eclectic background of a lot of things. Great story. Where can they go?
Sure. So certainly find me on LinkedIn. You can just type in my name. I don't know that there's many others. There might be, but you can see my face on there. You can check out our company's website, AliRx. So that's ALIRX.health. Or you can just email me directly at jimmy.stlouis@gmail.com or text me 270-366-3699. I'd love to hear from you.
Right on. Yeah, we may have missed our calling in life because we would have been a great duo performer of Jimmy St. Louis and Joey Kansas City. It'd be perfect.
We would attract a lot of, well, one, it's not too late, by the way.
No, it's never.
But we also would attract a lot of very intrigued people who, for at least for me, they may show up disappointed that I can't, that I'm not a jazz singer, but either way.
We'd figure something out. It's all improv. It's good. Yeah.
That's right. That's right. Well, it's never too late.
No, it's never too late. Man, hey, this has been great. Jimmy, thank you. I appreciate it. Best of luck. And it looks like I was really pondering Tampa yesterday. You have a weird relationship with that baseball team. They're so good. They're always so. In fact, we got your bench coach as our manager in Kansas City.
Yep.
But the crowds were thin even when you're doing good. And this year they're doing so good. And I keep thinking, when are they going to do it?
Yep.
So we'll see.
We'll see. I've got just a really quick, interesting story for you. So I actually lived in Kansas City for 4 years.
Okay.
My mother was born and raised in Lee Summit, and
where I live.
Oh, great. Okay.
I just moved there in January 2020, right before the world shut down. So anyway.
Wow. Yeah. No, it's great there. So we were in Kansas City, and then my father was stationed at Fort Leavenworth. So we weren't far away. But my great aunt had season tickets for 45 years. And my parents got married at the Royal Stadium there in Kansas City.
Wow. How cool is that?
Yeah. So when I used to go to games with her, I mean, they're like, "Hey, Peg," and I mean, it's a little different than now, but we had free reign. I'd walk back in the concession stands and fill up my Coke and grab nachos, and they just laugh and wave. Or, before the game, we'd go down the dugout, and it wasn't even escorted by a security guard. It was just Peg was there, so it was okay. So we've had some pretty cool memories there in Kansas City.
I've kind of stolen the idea, not stolen, but I'm doing what Rex Hudler always does. I love holding onto a baseball. And I thought, when I'm doing this, it just makes sense because that's what he's always doing. Yeah. So, and he's gone. So we love Rex here. So yeah, cool, man. This has been great. Yeah. Being in jazz, every time I bring up Lee Summit, I have so many Pat Metheny stories. It's crazy,
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, no doubt.
It's good.
No doubt.
It's good.
Yeah, it's a great city. Well, hey, I appreciate the time, and look forward to hearing this, and of course, listening in on your other podcasts. I'll be following you guys now, and
cool.
I really enjoyed this conversation.
Yeah, it's been great, man. Jimmy, great to meet you. Best of luck with everything, and I'll be following you and watching what happens. And if we need to get a stage show together, we got the right names.
I like it. We certainly do. Yes, sir. Thanks, Joe. I appreciate the time, and look forward to hearing this.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Have a good day.
You too.
Take care.
Bye.